The massive Imperial vessel emerged from hyperspace just beyond Mars, its sleek metallic hull reflecting the distant sun. On board, Admiral Marcus straightened his uniform and gazed at the blue-green planet displayed on the view screen. "So this is Earth," he said, his voice carrying the weight of countless first contacts. "Primitive, yet interesting." His second-in-command, Officer Reed, reviewed the data streaming across his terminal. "They've detected us, Admiral. Their primitive tracking systems are following our approach." "Good. Let them prepare. It makes the process smoother when they feel they have some control." On Earth, chaos erupted in military command centers worldwide. Unidentified objects larger than anything humans had ever built had appeared in the solar system, moving in ways that defied known physics. General Wilson stared at the radar screens in the Pentagon's underground command center. "Get me the president. Now." Within hours, the world's leaders gathered in an emergency United Nations session. The room buzzed with tension as representatives from every nation argued about the proper response. "We should attack first," shouted one military advisor. "With what?" countered another. "Their technology is clearly centuries beyond ours." President Taylor stood, silencing the room. "We will not make humanity's first extraterrestrial contact a hostile one. We prepare defenses, yes, but we approach this with diplomacy first." The decision came just in time. 3 smaller vessels detached from the main Imperial ship and descended toward Earth, entering the atmosphere with precision that stunned human scientists. Commander James watched from the roof of the UN building as the alien craft landed smoothly on the specially cleared area in New York's Central Park. As head of Earth's newly formed First Contact Division, he had trained for this moment, though the training had always seemed theoretical until now. "Ready, Commander?" asked his assistant, Officer Bell. James nodded, adjusting his uniform. "As ready as anyone can be to meet aliens." The ships opened noiselessly, revealing figures that appeared surprisingly human-like. They stood taller than average humans, with slightly gray skin and features that seemed just different enough to be unsettling. Admiral Marcus stepped forward, flanked by 6 guards in formidable armor. He smiled, a practiced expression that didn't reach his eyes. "People of Earth," he announced, his voice translated perfectly through a small device at his throat. "I bring greetings from the Galactic Empire, the unified governance of over 10,000 worlds across this spiral arm of the galaxy." The human delegation, led by UN Secretary-General Rivera, stepped forward cautiously. "We welcome you to Earth. We are honored to make first contact with galactic civilization." James stood at attention behind the Secretary-General, studying the visitors. Something about their confidence bothered him. Not the confidence of explorers making a discovery, but the assurance of those who had performed this ritual many times before, with predictable results. The formal introductions continued, and Marcus presented impressive holographic displays showing the vastness of the Empire. Thousands of worlds, billions of beings, technology that made Earth's greatest achievements look like children's toys. "We have much to offer your world," Marcus explained as the human delegation toured his ship later that day. "Faster than light travel, medical technology that can extend your lives threefold, energy sources that would make your fossil fuels obsolete overnight." "And what would the Empire want in return?" James asked, drawing a sharp look from Secretary Rivera. Marcus smiled that same empty smile. "Merely formal integration into our system, a fair exchange of resources, representation in our governance structure. The standard arrangements." That evening, as Earth's leaders celebrated the historic contact with an elaborate dinner, James slipped away to the communications room, where Officer Lisa was monitoring Imperial transmissions. "Any luck decoding their signals?" he asked. Lisa looked up, her face pale. "Yes. And Commander, they're not here to make friends." "What do you mean?" She turned her screen toward him. "I've translated some of their internal communications. This isn't first contact for them. It's the beginning of a conquest." 3 days after the landing, Admiral Marcus presented the Empire's formal integration proposal to Earth's United Nations. The Grand Assembly Hall buzzed with tension as world leaders and their advisors gathered to hear the terms. Marcus stood at the podium, his tall figure commanding attention. Behind him, a holographic display showed glittering worlds and advanced technologies that made many in the audience gasp. The Galactic Empire extends its hand in partnership, Marcus began, his voice smooth and practiced. Our standard integration package includes immediate technological upgrades for your infrastructure, medical advances that will eliminate most diseases, and access to our interstellar trade network. Images flashed across the screen. Ships traveling faster than light, cities with buildings that touched the clouds, and medical devices that seemed magical in their capabilities. In return, Marcus continued, Earth will become a protected member of the Empire. Your resources will be cataloged and shared according to our fair quota system. Imperial governance will supplement your existing structures to ensure smooth transition. Commander James sat in the back row, watching not the display but the faces of Earth's leaders. Many looked entranced by the promises. Others appeared more cautious. President Taylor's expression remained carefully neutral. We will need time to consider your generous offer, Secretary General Rivera said when Marcus finished. Such important decisions cannot be rushed. Marcus smiled. Of course, the Empire understands the importance of proper procedure. We will remain in orbit while you deliberate. As the assembly disbanded, James noticed Officer Lisa slipping him a small data drive. He nodded slightly, understanding that she had more information to share. Later that evening, in a secure room beneath the UN building, Earth's key decision-makers gathered for private discussions. The technology alone makes this worth considering, said the Chinese representative. We could advance centuries overnight. But at what cost? Countered the representative from Kenya. Their fair quota system sounds suspiciously like old colonial arrangements. President Taylor stood, silencing the room. Before we continue, Commander James and Officer Lisa have intelligence to share. James connected Lisa's drive to the room's projection system. For the past 72 hours, Officer Lisa has been monitoring and decoding Imperial communications. What we found is disturbing. Lisa stepped forward. Their internal messages reveal a pattern. Every planet they've integrated follows the same trajectory. She displayed a timeline showing dozens of worlds. First comes the friendly contact, then the technology sharing, followed by increased resource quotas. Within 10 Earth years, most planets lose effective self-governance. The room fell silent as images appeared of once beautiful worlds now scared by massive mining operations. Other pictures showed native populations relocated to crowded urban centers, while imperial citizens occupied the most desirable regions. This isn't partnership, James said quietly. It's conquest by contract. The German chancellor leaned forward. How did you decrypt their communications? Their technology is far beyond ours. Lisa smiled slightly. That's the thing about empires, Chancellor. They get complacent. They don't expect resistance, so their security becomes routine. And routine can be broken. There's more, James added. We've identified a planet called Tellus in their records. They integrated it 30 years ago. Its civilization was remarkably similar to ours. The projector showed images of a blue-green world that could have been Earth's twin, then shifted to show the same planet now. Brown continents and cloudy atmosphere. Their records classify Tellus as depleted now, Lisa said. Its population has been reduced by 70% through natural attrition and relocation programs. The room erupted in angry voices. President Taylor raised her hand for silence. We need to buy time, she said. Tomorrow, we'll tell Admiral Marcus we need 2 weeks to consider their proposal. Meanwhile, Commander James, what defense options do we have? James exchanged looks with the military leaders present. Not many, Madam President, but Officer Lisa's team has made progress understanding their technology, and we've identified something interesting. A weakness in their communication systems. Then we have work to do. President Taylor said grimly. Because it seems Earth needs to prepare not for integration, but for resistance. The underground facility hummed with activity as scientists and military personnel worked around the clock. 1 week had passed since Earth requested time to consider the Imperial offer. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility unknown even to most government officials, Officer Lisa and scientist Alex studied the Imperial technology they had managed to acquire. "Look at this," Alex said, pointing to the dismantled components of an Imperial communication device. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, but excitement animated his tired face. "Their quantum entanglement system isn't that different from our theoretical models. They're just using materials we haven't discovered yet." Lisa leaned closer. "Can we replicate it?" "Not exactly," Alex admitted. "But we can understand it. And what we understand, we can hack." Across the room, a team of engineers worked on a small Imperial scout ship that Earth forces had accidentally damaged during a demonstration. The Empire had written it off as insignificant, not realizing that humans were already reverse engineering its systems. Commander James entered the facility, carrying a tablet with new information. "The Empire's getting impatient," he announced to the room. "They've moved 3 more capital ships into orbit. Our request for more time is wearing thin." Lisa looked up from her work. "We need another week at minimum. Tell them whatever they want to hear." "That's not all," James continued, his voice lower now. "I've been studying the star charts we pulled from their databases. There's a planet called Proxima b in the Alpha Centauri system, just over 4 light-years away. The Empire integrated it 15 years ago." Alex whistled. "That close. Why haven't they ever contacted us before now?" "Because," James said grimly, "according to their records, they've been observing us for decades, waiting for the right moment. They classify planets by development stages. Earth just reached what they call harvest readiness." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "We need to see Proxima b for ourselves," Lisa said finally. "If it's that close." James nodded. "I've already proposed a mission to the President. We're going to use what we've learned about their propulsion systems to get there and back. I need volunteers." 6 hours later, a modified human vessel equipped with reverse-engineered Imperial technology launched from a secret facility in the Pacific Ocean. The Empire's sensors registered it as space debris, its true nature masked by technology Lisa's team had developed. James led the small crew of 5 specialists. The journey, which would have taken humans decades with conventional technology, took just under 3 days with the adapted Imperial drive. As they approached Proxima b, the ship's cameras revealed a planet that had once been green and blue like Earth. Now, vast brown scars marked its surface where massive mining operations had stripped away resources. Orbital platforms surrounded the planet, processing materials and shipping them to other Imperial holdings. "Take us in closer," James ordered, "but maintain stealth protocols." The ship descended through the atmosphere, its cloaking technology, a hybrid of Imperial tech and human innovation, keeping them hidden from the occupiers. What they saw shocked even the most prepared among them. The native population, humanoid beings with blue-tinted skin, lived in crowded compounds surrounded by security fences. They worked in mines and factories under the watchful eyes of Imperial guards. Outside these labor zones, Imperial citizens lived in luxurious settlements built on the most beautiful remaining landscapes. "They're not partners," Lisa whispered as they observed from their hidden position. "They're slaves." The team documented everything: the resource extraction, the population control methods, the environmental destruction. They even managed to intercept local communications revealing the Empire's long-term plans: complete depletion expected within 50 years, followed by population relocation to labor colonies elsewhere. As they prepared to return to Earth, James spotted a small resistance movement operating from the mountains. The locals had adapted some Imperial technology and were fighting back, though their efforts seemed desperately outmatched. "We need to contact them," James said. They could be valuable allies. "No time," said the pilot. "Imperial patrols are moving in this direction. We have what we came for." With heavy hearts, they departed, carrying evidence that would change Earth's response forever. 3 days later, they returned to Earth with the truth about the Galactic Empire. The United Nations General Assembly had never been so full. Representatives from every nation crowded into the hall, while billions watched the emergency broadcast worldwide. The atmosphere crackled with tension as Commander James took the podium, his face grave. "Ladies and gentlemen, what I am about to show you will change our planet's future forever," he began. The lights dimmed, and the evidence from Proxima appeared on the massive screen behind him. Gasps echoed through the hall as images of strip-mined continents and slave labor camps filled the display. Videos showed blue-skinned natives working under harsh conditions, while imperial overseers watched from comfortable monitoring stations. "This is not integration," James said firmly. "This is conquest and exploitation. This is what awaits Earth if we accept the Empire's offer." President Taylor rose from her seat as James finished. "The Empire has given us 48 hours to provide our final answer. Today, we must decide humanity's path forward." The debate that followed was heated but focused. No longer blinded by promises of advanced technology, Earth's leaders grappled with the reality of imperial rule. "Even if we refuse them, what chance do we have against their military might?" asked the Russian representative. "Their ships alone could devastate our cities within hours." Lisa stepped forward, her usual reserve replaced by fierce determination. "More than you might think. In the past 2 weeks, we've made extraordinary progress understanding their technology. They are advanced, yes, but not invincible." Alex joined her at the podium, bringing up technical schematics. "Their ships rely on a standardized communication system that we can now disrupt. Their weapons are powerful, but follow predictable patterns. Most importantly, they've grown complacent. They don't expect resistance." "What exactly are you proposing?" asked the Indian Prime Minister. President Taylor turned to face the Assembly. "A unified Earth defense initiative. Not surrender, not integration, but independence. We will stand together as one planet against this threat. And if we fail?" The question came from the back of the room, voiced by a small nation's representative. Commander James answered, his voice steady. "Then we fail on our feet, as free people. Better that than living on our knees watching our world be dismantled around us." A moment of silence fell over the Assembly as the choice became clear. "We call for a vote," announced Secretary General Rivera. "All in favor of rejecting the Empire's proposal and establishing the Earth Defense Initiative, raise your hands." Slowly at first, then with gathering momentum, hands rose throughout the chamber. Nation by nation, historical enemies and allies alike, humanity chose resistance over submission. When the final count was tallied, the vote was unanimous. President Taylor nodded solemnly. "Then it is decided. Earth stands united." In the hours that followed, the newly formed Earth Defense Council moved quickly. Military commands were consolidated. Scientists worldwide shared discoveries about imperial technology. Underground facilities activated emergency protocols developed since first contact. In a secure bunker beneath Geneva, Commander James met with the core defense team. Maps of Earth displayed potential defense positions while screens showed the Imperial ships in orbit. "They'll expect us to either accept or beg for more time," James said. "They won't expect a direct refusal, and they certainly won't expect us to fight back effectively. The planetary shield network needs at least 4 more days," Alex reported, pointing to a global map marked with installation sites. "We need to stall them somehow." Lisa studied the tactical display. "We can use their own protocols against them. Their diplomatic handbooks, which we pulled from their databases, outline specific procedures for integration refusals. There are formalities they'll feel compelled to follow." "Good," James nodded. "We'll use every minute they give us." As dawn broke over New York City the next day, Admiral Marcus received Earth's response. His confident smile faded as he read the formal declaration. "This is unprecedented," he murmured to his aides. They had not only refused integration, but declared their solar system sovereign territory. He shook his head in disbelief. They actually think they can stand against the Empire. Little did he know that beneath his feet, within the Earth's crust and in facilities around the globe, humanity was preparing the greatest defense in its history. The countdown to confrontation had begun. Admiral Marcus stood rigid on the bridge of his command ship, his face darkening as he read Earth's formal rejection for the third time. Around him, Imperial officers exchanged nervous glances. No one had ever delivered such news to him before. "They refuse our generous offer," Marcus said, his voice dangerously calm. "They dare to claim their entire solar system as sovereign territory." His second-in-command, Officer Reed, cleared his throat. "Admiral, standard protocol for rejection requires a final diplomatic mission before any further actions." Marcus crushed the tablet in his hand. "Prepare my shuttle. I will speak to these humans one last time." On Earth, Commander James watched the Imperial shuttle descend toward the United Nations building. Global defense forces had moved to high alert, with submarine-based missile systems, hidden air squadrons, and newly developed electromagnetic pulse weapons all standing by. "They're following protocol," Lisa said, monitoring communications. "Just as we predicted." "How much more time do we need?" James asked, not taking his eyes off the approaching shuttle. 26 hours for full shield coverage," Alex replied from his workstation. "The Southern Hemisphere installations are still calibrating." James nodded. "Then we give them a diplomatic show they won't forget." The meeting room in the UN building had been specially prepared. Hidden beneath ordinary conference tables were sensor jammers and emergency escape routes. Every person in the room wore subtle earpieces connected to Earth's unified command. Admiral Marcus strode in with 4 guards, his patience clearly thin. "Your response is unacceptable," he announced without preamble. "No planet rejects Imperial integration." President Taylor sat calmly at the head of the table. "And yet, that is precisely what we have done. Earth chooses independence." Marcus laughed coldly. "Independence? You misunderstand your situation. Integration is offered as courtesy, not choice. The Empire takes what it needs." "We understand perfectly," James replied, stepping forward. "We've seen Proxima B." Marcus froze momentarily, then regained his composure. "A necessary reorganization of resources. Their civilization benefits from Imperial guidance." "You mean slave labor and environmental destruction," President Taylor said. "We've seen enough to know what awaits Earth under your rule." The Admiral's face hardened. "Then you leave us no alternative. The Empire will establish presence with or without your agreement." He turned to leave, but paused at the door. "As a courtesy, you have 12 hours to reconsider before we begin peacekeeping operations." As soon as the Imperial shuttle departed, James activated the global command channel. "All stations, code sundown." "Repeat, code sundown. We have 12 hours." Around the world, military and civilian teams accelerated their preparations. Underground shelters opened for civilian evacuation. The SHIELD network engineers worked frantically to speed up the calibration process. In orbit, Imperial ships began moving into attack formation. Smaller vessels descended into low Earth orbit, targeting major cities and military installations. "They're positioning for a standard subjugation pattern," Lisa reported, studying their movements. "Just like the tactical manuals we decrypted." James nodded grimly. "Which means they'll start with communication centers, then power grids, then government facilities." "Exactly as we planned for," President Taylor said. "Are our countermeasures in place?" "Yes, Madam President," Alex replied. "The decoy sites are online, and our actual command centers are masked. Our reverse-engineered jammers are ready to activate." The 12-hour deadline approached rapidly. Cities around the world fell dark as power was rerouted to SHIELD generators. Military units disappeared into hidden positions, equipped with new weapons designed specifically to target Imperial weaknesses. 15 minutes before the deadline, Admiral Marcus sent a final message. Your time expires soon. The Empire awaits your surrender. No reply was sent. As the deadline passed, Imperial ships launched their first attack wave. Precision energy weapons targeted what they believed were Earth's communication centers. The beams struck empty buildings and decoy installations. Jammers active. Lisa called out. Across the planet, hidden transmitters activated, flooding Imperial communication channels with precisely modulated signals. On their ships, Imperial targeting systems went haywire. They're firing blind now, James observed as the Imperial second wave launched with visibly less coordination. Suddenly, a small Earth vessel rose from the Pacific Ocean, moving at impossible speed directly toward the Imperial command ship. It wasn't attacking. It was delivering a message. The vessel broadcast on all frequencies. Attention Imperial forces. Earth has declared. No entry. This is your only warning. In response, Admiral Marcus ordered full planetary bombardment. The real battle for Earth had begun. The sky above New York blazed with energy as Imperial ships began their assault. Brilliant purple beams sliced through clouds, striking targets across the city. Buildings that had stood for centuries crumbled, but something strange happened. There were no screams, no panic. The city is empty, Officer Reed reported to Admiral Marcus. Our life scans show minimal human presence. Marcus frowned, studying the tactical display. Similar reports were coming in from London, Tokyo, Beijing. All major targets showed far fewer casualties than expected. They've evacuated, he realized. But how? They had only 12 hours. On the other side of the world, deep beneath the Australian outback, the real Earth Defense Command Center hummed with activity. Commander James studied the global situation map with grim satisfaction. Evacuation protocols complete, reported a colonel. 87% of urban populations are in underground shelters, and the Empire has wasted their first strike on empty buildings. Lisa added, Phase 1 complete. James nodded. Begin Phase 2. Across the planet, hidden installations powered up. These weren't conventional weapons. They were based on Imperial technology, modified by human ingenuity. Electromagnetic pulse generators, quantum communication disruptors, and gravity field manipulators, weapons the Empire never expected humans to possess. The first EMP burst caught an Imperial cruiser over Rio de Janeiro. Its shields flickered and died, engines stalling midair. The massive ship hung suspended for a moment, then plummeted toward the ocean. Before it hit, emergency systems engaged, allowing a crash landing with minimal damage. One down. Alex called out, monitoring the weapon systems. EMP network functioning at 93% efficiency. Similar scenes played out across the globe. Imperial ships, suddenly vulnerable, found themselves targeted by precisely focused energy weapons. Not designed to destroy, but to disable. In orbit, Admiral Marcus watched in disbelief as his invasion force reported failure after failure. Impossible, he muttered. Their technology is primitive. They can't have defenses this effective. An aide approached cautiously. Admiral, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from all continents. They appear to be building towards some kind of synchronized activation. Marcus slammed his fist on the command console. Send in the ground forces. Now. Dropships launched from the Imperial vessels, carrying thousands of armored troops. They descended toward major capitals, ready to establish control points as per standard conquest procedure. What they found instead were abandoned cities with unexpected surprises. In Washington, D.C., Imperial troops marched toward the White House, weapons ready. As they approached, the ground beneath them suddenly liquefied, a carefully prepared trap using controlled nanomaterial that engulfed their heavy armor, hardening instantly. In Moscow's Red Square, Advancing forces triggered holographic projectors that created perfect illusions of attacking human forces. While the Imperials fired at ghosts, actual defense forces circled behind them. Human resistance is creative, an Imperial commander reported reluctantly. We're facing unconventional tactics across all insertion points. Back in the command center, James received word of a new development. They're launching a second wave. Larger ships, heavier weapons. President Taylor, who had refused evacuation to remain with the command team, nodded grimly. They're escalating as expected. Alex, is the shield ready? Final calibration complete, he confirmed, his fingers flying across the control panel. Planetary shield at 68% capacity and rising. Above Earth, the Imperial fleet regrouped. Admiral Marcus had abandoned standard conquest protocols and now prepared an overwhelming display of force. Target their largest population centers, he ordered. Full orbital bombardment. Show them the true power of the Empire. The Imperial flagship's main cannon powered up, gathering energy for a strike that could level a small country. As it prepared to fire, Lisa's monitoring equipment detected the energy buildup. Incoming major strike, she shouted, aimed at the Indian subcontinent. James hit the emergency broadcast. All shield generators to maximum. Redirect all power to the South Asian grid. As the Imperial weapon fired, a shimmering blue barrier suddenly materialized in the atmosphere. The devastating beam struck the shield, creating a spectacular light show visible from space. The energy dispersed across the shield's surface, gradually absorbed by the network. For a moment, silence filled both the Earth Command Center and the Imperial Bridge. Shield holding, Alex reported, his voice filled with wonder. Power distribution functioning as designed. On his flagship, Admiral Marcus stared at the impossible sight. A planetary defense shield that had just absorbed the Empire's most powerful weapon. Sir, Reed said quietly, we're receiving reports from other sectors. The subjugated worlds. They're watching this broadcast. Somehow, Earth is transmitting our defeat to the entire Empire. For the first time in his long career, Marcus felt something unfamiliar. Doubt. The planetary shield glowed with brilliant blue energy as it absorbed attack after attack. For 3 days, the Imperial fleet had thrown everything they had against Earth's defenses. For 3 days, the shield held. Admiral Marcus paced the bridge of his flagship, his usual confidence shattered. How? He demanded of his science officers. How can they have developed this technology so quickly? No one had answers. The Empire had never encountered such effective resistance, especially from a world they had classified as technologically inferior. Sir, Officer Reed reported, we're receiving a transmission from Imperial Command. They're concerned about our lack of progress. Marcus scowled. For the first time in his career, he faced the possibility of failure. Prepare my shuttle. I will speak to these humans myself. In the Earth Defense Command Center, the mood was cautiously optimistic. The shield was working better than anyone had dared hope, though power systems worldwide were stretched to their limits. Shield integrity at 78%. Alex reported, we can maintain this for another week, maybe 2 if we rotate the generator networks. James nodded, studying the tactical display. They're pulling back, regrouping. Not retreating, Lisa clarified. Long-range scans show Imperial reinforcements entering the solar system, at least 30 more capital ships. President Taylor, who hadn't slept in days, straightened in her chair. Then we use this pause wisely. Is the transmission ready? Yes, Madam President, Lisa confirmed. We can broadcast through their own communication network. Every world in the Empire will see it. And our special package. James smiled slightly. Ready for delivery. The Imperial flagship is requesting a parley. Perfect timing. The meeting was set for neutral territory. An orbital platform that had once been the International Space Station, now expanded and reinforced. Admiral Marcus arrived with 6 guards, his face a mask of controlled anger. James, Lisa, and President Taylor represented Earth, accompanied by a small security team. Each side eyed the other warily across the conference table. "Your resistance is impressive but futile," Marcus began without preamble. "Imperial reinforcements will arrive within days. Your shield cannot withstand their combined firepower." President Taylor met his gaze steadily. "We're not interested in your assessment, Admiral. We're here to deliver our terms." Marcus laughed, genuine amusement breaking through his anger. "Your terms? Planets don't set terms for the Empire. Earth does," James said simply. He activated a holographic projector, displaying a technical schematic. "This is our planetary shield technology. Unlike your weapons, which are designed to destroy, our innovation focuses on protection." Lisa continued, "We've prepared data packets containing this technology. They're being transmitted to every world in your empire as we speak." Marcus's face paled. "Impossible. Our communication network is secure." "Was secure," James corrected. "Your standardized systems made it relatively simple to access once we understood the basic architecture." President Taylor leaned forward. "Here are our terms, Admiral. The Empire will recognize Earth and its solar system as independent, sovereign territory. You will withdraw all forces immediately." "Or what?" Marcus demanded, though his voice lacked conviction. "Or nothing," Taylor replied. "We've already won. While we've been talking, every subjugated world in your empire has received our shield technology, along with evidence of your true intentions. The rebellion has already begun." As if on cue, Lisa's communicator beeped. "Sir, we're receiving transmissions from 7 different worlds in the Empire. They're activating their own shields." Marcus's communicator chimed simultaneously. The message made his face drain of color. "Imperial Command is recalling our fleet. There are situations developing throughout the Empire that require immediate attention." James nodded. "Revolution tends to spread quickly when people see hope." The Admiral stood, his posture rigid but defeated. "This isn't over. The Empire has stood for millennia. One defiant planet cannot change that." "Not one planet," President Taylor corrected, "but many planets, standing together. That changes everything." 3 days later, Earth watched as the Imperial fleet departed the solar system. The planetary shield remained active, a shimmering reminder of humanity's determination. In the command center, the team gathered around a communications display, showing incoming messages from across the galaxy. Former Imperial worlds reaching out, forming new alliances based on mutual respect rather than conquest. "What do we do now?" Alex asked, looking at the star map now marked with dozens of free worlds. James smiled. "Now we build something better than an empire. A federation, perhaps, based on choice, not conquest." President Taylor nodded, looking at the image of Earth displayed prominently on the main screen. Around their planet, in large letters visible from orbit, energy patterns in the shield formed words that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. Earth decl Aries, no inti or empires, all others guelc omemi as equals. The message spread across the stars, carrying with it humanity's promise. Freedom was not just possible, it was inevitable.